I liken boats to magic carpets. They take you to places that are wonderful. They're sort of magical in that respect. They give us access to go out on the ocean, and they give us sustenance and a place to live and exist while we visit these wild, remote places. And so that's what Galatea is about, for me. The only kind of powerboat that really wound my clock when I went to look for powerboat was basically a commercial hull form, because their ability to stay out in rough weather easily, and their range and their capacities, very heavy displacement, fuel efficient, set up to be out for a long time. And so that's what these boats represent. And I always started in the engine room right here so we can kind of look around after it starts. So let's try and see if we can get it to start here. But I've used her in connection with the marineros for taking people to the very end of the island and let them off on one of the more remote beaches, Starlight Beach. I've taken a lot of friends over to the island to do these hikes, and so for that reason it's really increased my enjoyment of the boat. So there are differences in these boats than there are in the commercial fish boats in terms of beam to length ratio, some layout, that kind of thing, and then blended with the pleasure side of it. The way it was designed and built, everything's purposeful, but it's also done very artfully. But there's curves everywhere on the boat, and all these radiuses, they're repeated throughout. There's certain hull forms and types of boats that do well and are specifically have evolved for these conditions. And so Galatea is a reflection of that heritage. I've done quite a bit of cruising in Alaska and Canada, down the west coast on sailboats, and so I've always admired these commercial fish boats.
Bells off, boys. Bells off, guys.
Paul Lindwall he grew up on the Columbia River, and his father was a Finnish immigrant, and he was a boat builder. They didn't need a designer to do a fishing boat, so somebody would come to them and say, I need a new boat, and Paul Lindwall would talk to them about what they wanted, probably draw it out on a napkin or something. It's hard to get a boat done right where it all kind of makes sense. That wheel that fits perfectly. Well, I searched 2 years for that wheel. It's a bronze wheel, weighs 80 pounds, came off a tugboat. But it took a long time to find a bronze wheel, a solid bronze wheel that would fit the boat.
You've got a large aft deck, you've got a lot of room up here on the bridge, so you did a good job.
And this is local cruising, right? This is cruising for people that have jobs, careers, and families, so we're not setting off like a lot of people and going cruising to distant places. You have a design, but then you have the boat as built. It's almost always different, but then sometimes more significantly different. And Galatea is 2 feet longer than she was designed because the builder laid down the keel. It was a longer piece of timber than was needed by the boat. He left it long, didn't tell anybody, so the boat was almost 2 feet longer, and then at the end he told Bill Hann at the launching that the boat was 2 feet longer than he ordered, and that was his gift to him, that his boat was just bigger.
Brad's the director of the School of Sailing and Seamanship at Orange Coast College. That's Betty, one of their sail training vessels.
We're at Empire Landing, and then we'll...
There were about 12 boats built like Galatea.
Sister ship to this boat.
In Southern California in the 60s, and they were, almost all of them were built for sailors that were going from sailing to power in the late 50s, early 60s.
The big point you see down there is long.
And those people would be racing and sailing, and they'd see these fish boats working off the coast, and they went to Art DeFever and said, we'd like a commercial boat hull designed up as a yacht. And so that's what DeFever did.
Long point.